A couple of things that we need to take care of before we have our expert presentations at 2. One item is that we had talked about the possibility of doing a public input outreach session at Claremont, and this was not originally added to the agenda. That was before we realized we were going to have to shift our meeting schedule by a day. It may turn out that we will not be ready to do an outreach meeting, but I think we should get it noticed regardless, just in case, to preserve that option. So Mr. Rickards has made the suggestion, which I think is a good one, that we simply revise our meeting notice to add the outreach rather than having a separate notice that we then have to completely cancel. So let me just read what has been suggested and then see if any of the other commissioners have comment on it. So this would be in addition to the original meeting notice. It will be noted as revised, and we'll add a paragraph that says, the commission may hold its first public outreach meeting on Sunday, February 13th at 2011 at Claremont College. If held, this meeting will be specifically to solicit public input regarding redistricting, an announcement as to whether the meeting will take place, and if so, the time and specific location will be made on Thursday or Friday, September 10th or 11th. And then we've added under the actual open session items in item number 12, public outreach. Any thoughts or comments on this or modifications?
My prior understanding was that we were discussing doing the outreach on Saturday. Did we change that to Sunday now?
That's
what Saturday night?
This is what's currently proposed. This is why I want to discuss this, okay, because I know for a fact that a number of commissioners aren't even going to be able to stay through Saturday, or we'll have to leave Friday night. And that's fine. Not all commissioners need to be there, as we've discussed before. So would there be a preference to do this Saturday night? It would be good for us all to know, since we're trying to make flight reservations. Saturday night, consider attendance on a Saturday night versus Sunday morning. Commissioner Yao?
If it's Sunday, I suspect it likely would be Sunday after the church hours and not competing with the faith community.
Right. So that's another consideration. Commissioner Ward?
Yeah. Just looking at the schedule and with the adjustments that we made this week alone, it seems like it might make sense to consider Saturday as a primary option if we do decide to go ahead and do the outreach, simply out of, like I said, logistical, budgetary, and agenda reasons. Yeah.
We could also simply say may hold its first public outreach meeting on Saturday, February 12th, or Sunday, February 13th, and then we can make that decision, you know, when we get there. I do believe we're going to get some interesting data later this afternoon, which may or may not, you know, change our minds on that, but at least it gives us the option to have it sometime on the weekend. Does that make sense?
I would support that.
Yeah. Okay.
Got that? Okay, let me read it. Commission may hold its first public outreach meeting on Saturday, February 12th, or Sunday, February 13th, 2011 at Claremont College. And then again, the rest of it, if held, this meeting will be specifically to solicit public input regarding redistricting, an announcement as to whether the meeting will take place. And if so, the time and specific location will be made on Thursday or Friday, September 10 or 11, 2011.
Is that okay, Mr. Vice Chair?
Sounds good.
Okay. Great. Do you have what you need?
That's good. We're going to go with this.
Okay.
We may have to call on our messenger to get it posted physically.
Yeah, this is just for the Commission's information that in addition to posting this on the website, we actually have to have physical public notice 14 days in advance.
Right, posting will happen on Saturday, so I can do it myself.
Excellent. Thank you for volunteering, Commissioner Yao. So yeah, physically there has to be a sign on the venue.
And in case anybody have a copy of this, don't worry, the announcement time will not be made in September 2011. That'll be changed to February.
Great. I had a couple other announcements. First of all, that as you know, we've all been set up now with our new emails, our new CRC emails, and some of us originally had not been getting emails through the official channels, and so we've been copying other emails addresses, but from now on, all official emails will go only to your CRC address, so please make a note of it, make sure it's set up on your phones and laptops and whatever so that you can read them in a timely fashion. Any questions about that? Okay. And the other announcement is, as you know, we had spoken about trying to get the sexual harassment training out of the way. So Ms. Mejia has been looking into an online product that will fulfill the state requirements so that we can all do that individually on our own time. So as soon as, you know, they've made a decision on a recommended vendor, we'll get that out to the commission, so we will take care of that state requirement. So I had just a couple more items. Item number 9, under schedule, operation, location of future meetings. I just wanted to just recap the details for the February meetings for the benefit of the public. And just to remind everyone that after we adjourn the meeting, the January meeting today, that we will reconvene on February 10th, which is the Thursday, which is a day later than originally planned, at 9 a.m. And that right now the plan is for Thursday to start with subcommittee meetings of the newly formed subcommittees that we have. This is subject to change based on the any further developments based on attendance and availability of commissioners. It's possible that the schedule will change, but right now we anticipate the subcommittees will meet starting at 9 o'clock in 3 different sessions for 2 hours apiece, and then we will go into a full commission meeting starting at 3 o'clock. That's the current plan. As I said, details of this will be posted as soon as if any changes or specifics are made. Commissioner Filkins-Weber?
Just one clarification. For instance, I am on the legal subcommittee, and based on the schedule that was passed out this morning, it appears that our scheduled meeting is not set to commence until 1 p.m., 1 to 3. So
Correct.
Although other subcommittees may be convening at 9, is it reasonable for me to assume that the legal subcommittee, I would not need to be present, I suspect,
Correct.
on Thursday until 1 p.m. and then for the full commission at 3?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Yes. Commissioner Yao?
It may be appropriate to, because we're at a host facility, I think a couple comments from maybe the mayor and a couple comments from the host organization would be appropriate to start off the session. So I think the agenda allow us to meet as a group starting at 9 o'clock and maybe take a few minutes for that to happen, and maybe in addition to that, summarize what we have done and what we're doing and where we are, so that before we break into the subcommittee, it's not necessarily the entire commission be there, but if that would be the process, I think that would be welcome.
I would leave that to the discretion of your new chair, who will be Commissioner Ward, and your new vice chair, Commissioner Galambos-Malloy. They will work with Mr. Claypool to finalize the details on the agenda and make any revisions and get them posted as necessary. But certainly, we would like to thank our host city and facility. So when that takes place, I will leave to their discretion. So I would like to spend some time summarizing what we have done for the January meeting before we leave today.
Maybe before we go on to the next item, it would be appropriate to open a public mic
Yes.
in the event anybody is interested in addressing us both on the agenda or any other business.
I just wanted to note that we are going to do that today.
Oh, okay.
So, in fact, that was my next item, which is to open the floor to public comment. I know there's at least one individual who'd like to address the commission, so please come forward, Mr. Walton.
My name's Sam Walton, and I'm working with the NAACP. And I have been tracking with you guys, and first of all, I want to just commend you for the endurance that you've experienced already. I mean, I'm sure none of you anticipated the amount of weight that this thing has dropped on you already, because I'm not full-time like you are. I'm not engaged in it as regularly as you are, and it's been a pressure for me to just keep track of you. So I can just tell you, you'd be respected, and I hope you can sustain it. I hope you can hang in there. I encourage you to do it. This is an important responsibility. It's the first time that California has placed this kind of responsibility in the hands of people like yourselves, like us. And so I implore you to continue to push and to stay in there and be determined to accomplish this task. But I have one question, and then I have an observation. My first question has to do with the building of your staff. I noticed that there was a public notice for an executive director, public information officer, administrative assistant, and legal counsel. But I haven't seen a public notice on anything else. And I think it's really important, as credible as you are as commissioners, the diversity you reflect is what will add credibility to the maps you draw. And I think having a diverse staff is also important. And I think that it's important to be able to open that process up and make sure, as you're making these staff decisions, that the notice has been extended far and wide, and that everyone has an opportunity to participate in the process, as was the case when you were selected. And the one thing that I was really encouraged by with your selections is there was a tremendous outreach. People who would never have thought about participating in this process got involved in this process. People were encouraged to believe that they could actually participate in making California a better place. So as you go forward, you reflect the hopes and dreams of a whole lot of Americans, a whole lot of Californians. So just remember that the next wave, the people who are going to be hired, should also reflect that. And try to figure out a way to broaden your outreach so that those of us like me who are waiting to help you, who have tremendous networks and outreach opportunities, we can put the word out for you. When you're preparing to bring somebody in, try to give us a notice so that we can help you to at least have the choice, like you had this morning, to select people who are as talented as you are. That's I guess my question is there a process to do that?
I'm not sure that I can answer about the process, and I'm sure somebody will, but I just wanted to welcome your comments, Mr. Walton. It's something I've been thinking about, how do we balance expediency with diversity, and as you indicated, the effort that went into producing this commission required extensive outreach, extensive. And we have to be very mindful, I agree, that because now we're trying to work under the gun, that our staff hires are also diverse, and that we, this is always a problem, like expediency seems to trump, the time it takes to do good, outreach. So I think some of us are aware of this, and what I would ask of you, and maybe, I don't know if you're involved in the California Redistricting Collaborative, is that you discuss this as a group and figure out also ways how to help us, in terms of getting out the word about the positions that we post, which are all posted on the We Draw the Lines website. But I think it would be great to have your help. Thank you.
Okay. They are not all posted. I guess that's the first thing.
Okay.
So if they were all posted, then you'd have a different question, but
Actually,
they're not all posted.
Yeah, I'd like our executive director to address that. I also would like to point out that the first postings for the first 4 positions were put out before the full commission was seated on our behalf by the Secretary of State, again, trying to expedite the process so that we would, not, come together the first time and basically start from zero. So, I don't know if Mr. Claypool can comment on where those were posted as well, but he can certainly comment on what his plan is for the other positions.
Good afternoon, Mr. Walton. I remember you. The Secretary of State posted the job announcements that we've seen both for the first positions, both on the We Draw the Lines website, as well as, I understand, the vacant position, or referred to as VPAS in state government, into that system. How many other places it was posted, I can't tell you at this time. I can get back to you and let you know. But it certainly had a long enough reach in its posting, or where it was posted, to reach Southern California and some of those areas. On the remaining positions that we're hiring, there are actually very few. The commission has asked that it be a very streamlined structure because of funding, and those are also currently, for the remaining ones that are being advertised, are on VPAS as well, and that would be the budget officer position.
Well, when I looked at, and I'll just check it, I'm just sharing with you my observation here. When I did go to the website, I saw 4 positions posted, and I remember when the Secretary of State posted those 4 positions. I have not seen any other position, and I went to a variety of different places, and I didn't see it. And even when you look at the Secretary of State's postings, it didn't say send your application here. So if someone is interested, you could go online and find out more about the benefits that would come with the position, but you could not find a place where you could submit your application. So I just raised that. I don't want to push the issue further, and I don't want to present it in the context of conflicting or combating, because your job is already difficult. What I am trying to do is work with you, and I am working with the redistricting collaboration, and I am trying to work with you to facilitate a very difficult job. And from the collaboration side, we'll do everything we can to help. And so I'm not sure how or what your process is, and maybe I can talk to you later about the mechanics of how it works, so that I won't spend the time with this group. The next observation I want to make is that it's difficult to track with you as a commission, because you have a broad agenda, and you have listed like 7 major issues. And then you've said, we're going to handle these issues over the next 20 days or the next 30 days. So at any point, you could take any one of those issues and have a conversation on it. But if I'm the public, I can't sit with you every day. And I can't sit with you from 9:30 to 5. So I don't know when the issue I'm concerned about is going to come up. So that if I wanted to give you input, I have no way of doing that. And I raise that as an observation because it's something that you may want to think about. I don't know, perhaps at the beginning of your meeting, maybe you can just post the 7 issues you're going to talk about. So maybe you've done your broad notice that allows you to comply with the Bagley King, but then maybe for the purpose of trying to get the public tuned into you, there's another list that can be posted before the meeting that says, here's the 7 issues that we're going to talk about. Because I know somewhere in the scheme of things, you have talked about the structure for your organization, your staffing, et cetera. But I couldn't tell you where that was or when that happened. But I do see in the minutes somewhere there's something that says staff structure, and I printed it out, and there were some things on there that says delete it, and some are still there. I don't know if those are the positions that, I'm just sharing with you that if you want the public's continue to tune in with you, and I'm sure you do, we have to try to find a way, while complying with the Bagley-Keene Act is important, what the Bagley-Keene Act is trying to get you to do is to include me. So it's not useful to comply with Bagley-Keene and leave me sitting on the sideline. So that's my only observation, and I want to close my statement by saying I encourage you to continue to do what you're doing. It's really important.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walton. I will note for the record that at the beginning of this 3-day meeting, we did post a detailed list of items for discussion by day, which we have fairly closely adhered to. We've had to bump a few things, and we'll try to get in the practice of doing that. And we also, as I mentioned just a few minutes earlier, we're going to try to move to, I believe that most of the commission is in agreement with this, with a daily kind of end-of-day update on any decisions or actions that we made, so that you can tune in for the last 5 minutes and see what we covered. So you'll have an idea at the beginning and an idea at the end, because we're well aware from our own experience that it's very difficult to stay tuned in the whole time if you have another job.
No, you were in executive session yesterday. Did you guys fill those 4 positions or 5
As a
positions?
matter of fact, I think unless you have another comment, we're ready to move on to another agenda item that may answer that question. So with that, I think Mr. Claypool has some updates for us.
I do. I have called the references and checked the personnel jackets for our chief counsel, the nomination for the chief counsel. There's nothing in the jacket that was adverse at all, and the references were just extraordinary. Speaking to,
Yeah, I think we can put the candidate forward because we'll be voting on this shortly.
So speaking, Mr. Miller had references from CEOs that he had worked for in private industry, also individuals that he had worked for in the state, because he has a broad experience. They spoke to his compassion, they spoke to his kindness, they spoke to his absolute diligence to his profession, and recommended him highly. So I would say that there's no impediment whatsoever in making him an offer.
Okay. At this point, this was what we did in closed session for the benefit of the public. We interviewed candidates for chief counsel yesterday. We did not make a decision because it was pending background and reference checks, which, as you heard, have now been completed. So with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to formally approve the selection of Kirk Miller for chief counsel.
Move that.
Okay, Commissioner Blanco has moved.
I will second.
Thank you. Commissioner Antai, it's been moved and seconded that we approve Kirk Miller as the Citizens Redistricting Commission's chief counsel. Any discussion on this matter or questions? Would any member of the public like to comment or ask any questions regarding this action? Yes, Mr. Walton.
I heard the first name, the first time you said it, you said Rick, and then the second time you said Kirk.
No, Kirk.
Okay.
Kirk Miller.
Oh.
Any other questions or comments from the public? Okay. Seeing no one else approaching the podium, I would like to turn this back to the commission. Would any of the commissioners like to make a comment about Mr. Miller for the benefit of the public? Commissioner Filkins-Weber?
We certainly appreciate all of the candidates that are interested in this position, and I would, on behalf of the commission, like to welcome Mr. Miller. He's a fine candidate. Speaking as an attorney myself, I think this commission will be satisfied in having the utmost confidence in Mr. Miller, and I certainly would like the public to also be assured that when you consider selection of council, you should have confidence in the representative that you select. And I certainly want the public to know that unanimously this commission will likely have confidence in Mr. Miller, and I certainly look forward to his participation with the commission. And I welcome him if he is selected, as the vote may very well go.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Yao?
Commissioner Weber, would you represent the commission and give a synopsis of Mr. Miller's background for us?
You have his application in front of you. Look it up.
Or any other commissioner can feel free to comment on why it was our unanimous selection.
I'd like to, I guess the two attorneys are going to comment on the attorney. Well, there's more than two attorneys on the commission. No, I'd like to echo my fellow commissioners' comments. I think we've made first of all, welcome, Mr. Miller, and I think that we thought long and hard about this decision. The demands of this position are incredible. It requires a very broad set of skills, which are not easily found in one person. And I think we were extremely fortunate, and I think we found a person that can be extremely nimble in addressing a lot of our needs. Is his resume up? I don't know, or his vita, or anything like that?
No privacy.
There may be privacy issues. I don't know, but just to let the public know, his experience ranges from private practice in complex matters to in-house counsel for major companies, both public and private companies, and now a stint in, not a stint, but a very difficult job with the Natural Resources Commission?
Agency.
Thank you. Which deals with very complex matters around natural resources in California. So I mention all those things just to say that it's that diversity of experience that really made us feel comfortable that this was the kind of counsel that we could really rely on, and therefore that the folks that will be impacted by the work of the commission can rely on.
Commissioner Filkins-Weber?
One other note in that regard, and for the public's benefit, is Mr. Miller has certainly expressed to this commission that he found this position more of a calling rather than a job, and he has been fascinated and very interested and has followed redistricting for quite some time. Though his experience is quite broad and may not in particular relate to redistricting, he certainly has expressed his confidence in the issues, recognizes all of the issues, and will certainly be a fine counselor for us as we proceed with drawing the maps.
Thank you. Any other commissioner want to make a comment? Commissioner Galambos-Malloy?
We feel that this candidate was the best one to really suit the role of general counsel, and I want it to be on the record that we don't necessarily assume this is the only legal support that we'll need throughout this process, but given our needs at this time, this candidate was the best fit.
Great, thank you. So, just a reminder that this is a supermajority vote. I don't believe this is going to be a problem, but just for the benefit of the public. And that Mr. Miller has been offered a salary, the midpoint of the range, at $134,000 a year. Okay? So I believe we need to take a roll call vote for this. So are we ready to do a roll call vote, or do you want to, shall we take care of this one first and then move on?
We have to vote for each candidate, so let's go ahead and take the roll call vote.
Okay, great.
Chairperson Dye, can I have you clarify the term of service, the length of the hire that we're offering the position for, or Dan?
I spoke extensively with Kirk this morning. He had 1,000 questions, and I explained to him that the length of service is for however long he needs to represent the commission. I also explained to him the budget situation, and that if the budget dictated that we ended early, he would be ending early with it as well, as would all your staff. He was fine with that. He asked whether the commission, had an intention to do some wrap-up work at the end of the process. I told him certainly we would have archiving issues for a while, and because he was interested in staying with it as long as he could, and that was so. But he understands that it is predicated on our funding, as well as just the length of the work that's involved with the process.
Okay. Are we ready for a roll call vote? Okay.
Okay, I'm going to start at the top because I ended at the top. Commissioner Aguirre?
Yes.
Commissioner Baraba?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanco?
Yes.
Commissioner Dye?
Yes.
Commissioner DeGiulio?
Yes.
Commissioner Filkins-Weber?
Yes.
Commissioner Forbes?
Yes.
Commissioner Galambos-Malloy?
Yes.
Commissioner Antai?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvenu? Commissioner Rhea?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Yao?
Yes.
I believe we have a unanimous vote of the commissioners present. So we have a new chief counsel. Please welcome him on behalf of the commission. And by the way, did you check whether he can fly down to Claremont with us?
Yes, I spoke with him, and as soon as we can bring him aboard, he knows that you would like him at all your meetings.
Okay, so there is a question as to whether he can be there?
No, we should be able to have him on board. He will take 7 days, as he explained to us, to come
wrap up.
to wrap up. We should give him that opportunity, and hopefully it won't take that much longer, because he has a very important position with resources. But I believe there won't be any problem with him being there.
Great, that's very exciting. Commissioner Ward, do you have a question?
I just want to thank Dan. I know we put a big burden on you to get all that wrapped up quickly and accurately today. And I just thank you for getting all that done so we could make that happen today. Thank you.
So there was another position that we are trying to fill this week, and that is for the position of Public Information Officer. And I believe that Mr. Claypool has an update for us on that, too. Oh, Commissioner Yao.
If Mr. Miller is going to be on board with us the next time we meet, I want to, at this point, thank our interim legal counsel supplied by the SOS Secretary of State to help this commission get started. I think without the guidance and support of Mr. Cy Rickert, I don't think we would be where we are today. I think all his decisions has been extremely valuable to us, and we forever indebted to him.
Thank you, Commissioner Yao. Definitely. And Mr. Rickards isn't sitting here right now, but he'll be back, and we'll remind him when he comes back. And by the way, Mr. Rickards has offered to help with any transition issues and continue to support Mr. Miller to make sure it's a smooth transition. So his help has definitely been appreciated. The millions of questions that have been raised by the new act. Okay, so are you ready to?
I am. I also checked the references for our top candidate for our communications director. That would be Rob Wilcox. His references all spoke highly of him. He was with the former Inspector General in charge of our funds for well over 10 years. And she said that we were going to be very lucky to get a person with his energy and with his excitement. All his references also spoke to how he was an innovative individual when it came to solving problems, and there were no problems whatsoever in the references.
Any questions for Mr. Claypool? Can I entertain an appropriate motion? I'm not going to state every single motion for everyone. Someone get some practice making a motion now.
I will make a motion that we approve his position as the Director of Communications for the Commission.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Or would someone like to provide the public a little color on our candidate for, are we going with Public Information Officer or Communications Director?
Communications director is what it was advertised as, and he requested that it be stated as such.
Okay, let's stick with Communications Director. Would anyone like to provide a little background on Mr. Wilcox?
I
Commissioner
would
Young?
ask Mr. Claypool to do that on our behalf.
Background on, he has well over 20 years of experience in public relations work. He started out in Los Angeles with his own public relations firm. He moved into public service with the former Inspector General, Laura Chick, when she was working for the city of Los Angeles, and moved forward with her to Sacramento to set up from scratch a brand new public relations and communications director position with her. They did extensive work doing audits with the American Recovery Act funds, and would have still been working at that today, but the position was cut because of the budget. But he is highly qualified and very well suited for our position.
I will just note for the record that the commission did not interview candidates for the communications director. We delegated that responsibility to Mr. Claypool, but he did report back out on the candidates, and we did ask him to do the reference checks and background checks accordingly. Mr. Ward, do you have any comments as a member of the Public Information Committee?
Well, I think just to add to your statement, that all of the positions were very carefully contemplated by the commission before selection, and one of the things that, although we didn't do the interview directly, that stood out for us was just the breadth and success of Mr. Wilcox's background and his willingness to work hard at outreach and partner in outreach with the community and with the established organizations. So we're really excited about having Mr. Wilcox, not just as a candidate, but now officially as our communications director, and believe that he's going to be just a fantastic conduit for the commission, for outreach, and as a partner with other agencies. Thank you.
And just for everyone's information, Mr. Wilcox was offered a salary at the top of the range, which is a pay cut. So, okay, are we ready to vote on this? This will be a roll call vote. Okay, let's go ahead.
Commissioner Yao,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Raya.
I'm sorry, we just raised a question. I believe these candidates were reviewed on Wednesday the candidates for this position were discussed on Wednesday in closed session. I was not present, neither was Commissioner Filkins Weber. However, we did our due diligence in preparing. I just want a point of order. Are we able to vote, having not been part of the discussion?
Absolutely, we delegated the responsibility to the executive director, and this is his recommended candidate.
Thank you, then I vote yes.
Commissioner Parvenu, Commissioner Antai,
Yes.
Commissioner Columbus Malloy,
Yes.
Commissioner Forbes,
Yes.
Commissioner Filkins Weber,
Yes.
Commissioner DeGiulio,
Yes.
Commissioner Dye,
Yes.
Commissioner Blanco,
Yes.
Commissioner Baraba,
Yes.
Commissioner Aguirre.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, I believe we have a unanimous vote of those commissioners present, so we now have a new communications director. I'd like to welcome Mr. Wilcox to join the team. We have two more positions for desperately needed administrative assistance for the commission and for Mr. Claypool, so please tell us about the final positions.
I have interviewed 11 different people for these positions, virtually all that we received, and know the credentials of all of the candidates that applied. Two stood out very much so. The first is Christina Shoup. Christina is currently the business development manager for the Western Car Wash Association that handles a national budget for them. I spoke with her about the different things that she would have to do, and also the time constraints and the multitude, just the multitude of tasks that we have. She said she was absolutely interested. She's followed this commission since the first day. She had applied, but then because of her promotion within the association, she decided to go ahead and stay with them because she felt obligated to help them through a crisis period. Today, she was offered the executive director position for them and turned it down to take this position. And she's highly qualified. She was marketing director, small business consultant. She has network and desktop support skills. She worked as a technical support trainer for Apple Computer. She's been an independent contractor for Intel, DIC Insurance Company, Applied Materials, and her list of advanced computer skills include both publications and web design and editing, which could come in very handy for us. The second individual that I will be recommending is Janice Sargis. Janice was a consultant for the Court Reporters Board. She served as their liaison between the executive officer of the board and the Office of Exam Services. She held that position for over 5 years. Prior to that, she was an examination specialist. And she also worked at a variety of private industry positions, including the owner of her own business. So she comes highly qualified and again is excited. She's followed the process also from the beginning, and is looking forward to working for us if you approve her. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Aguirre?
Yes, just one question, Mr. Claypool. Could you, for the record, give us the titles to those two individuals?
Both the titles will be administrative assistants. We had one of the things I think that was discussed earlier were you discussed the salary schedule that had been given to us by the Secretary of State's office. Because we are an independent board or an independent commission, I mean, we have a salary structure that's based on state salary structure, but we give them the titles we need them to have. These persons will work effectively at the salary structure an associate government program analyst, but will be for our purposes administrative assistance.
Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Any comments from the public? If you would like to make a comment, feel free to come toward the mic. Seeing no one approaching the mic, bring it back to the commission. Are we ready to vote? This again has to be a supermajority vote. All staffing positions require this. Unless there's a problem, we can vote on both together. Okay. All right, roll call.
Top and bottom. Okay, I'm just starting from the top because I'm used to starting from the top down. Commissioner Aguirre?
Yes.
Commissioner Baraba?
Yes.
Commissioner Blanco?
Yes.
Commissioner Dye?
Yes.
Commissioner DeGiulio?
Yes.
Commissioner Filkins Weber?
Yes.
Commissioner Forbes?
Yes.
Commissioner Columbus Malloy?
Yes.
Commissioner Antai?
Yes.
Commissioner Parvenu? Commissioner Raya?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Yao?
Yes.
Okay, it's another unanimous vote of those commissioners present. We now have an almost complete staff. I'm sure that Mr. Claypool is overjoyed.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we may want to take a break now before our expert presentations because we probably are going to go straight through, I imagine, once we have guests here. So, however, it looks like there may be a public comment, so let me go ahead and take that before we break.
I want to follow up on a question I had earlier. The positions that were just hired, I assume they were properly noticed, and we'll just look at it. But the question is, are there other positions that
Just
will
the
be
one.
hired? I'm looking at the. I guess I just don't know if there, how many positions there are, what kinds of positions there are, and they seem to be getting filled, and there's just no information on them.
So for the benefit of the public, this was reviewed earlier in our meeting, but would Mr. Claypool, do you mind going over the recommended staffing structure that you went?
Yes, sir. There is, under the current structure, there is only one other position, and that is for a budget officer. And it is being advertised now through the vacant position list and through whatever other mechanisms the Secretary of State had used prior to this. And we'll tell you that this doesn't mean that these are all the positions, but these are the positions that I recommended now as we get this up and running and get staff just completing the basic work of planning what is ahead of us. If there are further positions to be advertised, we're certainly open to whatever means we need to get them advertised so that everyone hears about them and has the opportunity to apply for them.
Well, I guess that was the question. I mean, I'm hearing there are no more positions. There's one more position, but then I'm hearing you say there are other positions. So there's no
If I can clarify, no. Under the current structure that was approved, there is one more position, and that would be for the budget officer. However, we have to put a structure in place to do all of the different things that the commission is going to need, and if further positions were needed and approved by the commission at that time, we would want to make sure that they were advertised as widely as possible. So I'm saying I'm not sure if additional positions will be needed, but there's only one right now.
Right, and again, this was presented with the staffing and budget plan that Mr. Claypool presented to us on Wednesday, and this was a significantly slimmed down plan from what he had originally proposed last week, understanding our limited funding situation, our desire to to move quickly with the limited set of resources that we have, and hopefully have enough money left to do what we have really been charged to do. So it's a challenge. We may, as Mr. Claypool mentioned, we may find that we will need more staff over time, and we'll probably, need to request the budget to go with that. But right now, we plan to operate in a pretty lean and mean kind of situation. Yes, Commissioner Ward.
No, thank you. Congratulations to Christina and Janice. And I was wondering, Mr. Claypool, if you could tell us when they're going to be up and running on staff officially.
We're going to work through the HR here at the Secretary of State's office, which, by the way, can't be commended enough for what they've done for us. I would hope that they would be available Monday or Tuesday to start filling in and helping with the many things that Roland, I, and Ann need them to do.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, let's take a brief break and reconvene at 2 o'clock, but
I'm sorry, same topic. Mr. Claypool, has the staffing structure information that you provided to us been posted online for the public?
Yes, it was that document that we all reviewed that showed my original list, and then the second one that showed the strip down.
I just wanted to confirm that since...
yeah, all of these documents are under meeting handouts. So if you click on meeting handouts, it's posted by the day and the title of the document. So this is the proposed staffing structure.
And that was why I had the observation, is that it's difficult to track you. So, those documents are up there, and the document that you're referring to, it's not clear. The documents that you approved, some of them says deleted, and some of them don't.
Correct.
Now, does that mean the ones you deleted are gone and the others are still there? So that's the document you have posted right now.
Yes, it does. In fact, when in my original proposal, there were approximately 18 positions, 17, 18 positions, counting myself to be 18. And so many of those positions were deleted because we had to move to a smaller structure so that we didn't spend the bulk of the commission's money on staff.
Yeah, I didn't see 18 deletions. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Okay. We can certainly work with you. If you'd like to contact us, I can make that clear.
Mr. Walton, I'd just like to point out that this is one of the reasons we're hiring an information officer. I mean, we're really hoping that with these hires, our website, our manner of communicating with the public really becomes clear. I mean, we know there are some, we've had some hiccups and bumps and all of that, and hopefully with a designated position on this that's, not us having to rely on different agencies who have been wonderful, that with having a full-time staff person, and again, as I mentioned, when you brought up the issue of staff, I think all of this, in all of these endeavors, it would be really helpful to get input about what would be a more user-friendly way of posting things, et cetera, and I really mean that. And that's what this person, one of the persons that's coming on board, is going to help us do, among with other sort of public information tasks. That's a big one.
Yeah, I think that I certainly appreciate your comments, and as I said, I encourage you all. And it is important to just keep in mind that we trust that you will be the citizens and not the pawns, so that you have to pay attention so that we don't wind up having a sweep of 4 or 5 positions and everybody from the same basic ilk. We trust that you will pay attention to that, because the credibility of us going forward is going to hinge on that. So I raised this issue only because it was just confusing, and I've been watching it. And if I'm confused about it, and the challenge you face is that you all have to be careful about how you communicate outside. So it's kind of like, how do we have a conversation here so that we wind up with something that's real and that's not plastic, or an end product that is inconsistent with your own views? and I know some of you, and I know that you're sensitive to the interests of the minority community. But I'm not sure your actions have just reflected that. So I'm raising it today because we're early, we're up front. And as we go forward, let's not let expediency be the sole solution. And if expediency is important, then we have to figure out a different way to do it. So I raised that. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to speak to you and share my point of view.
Thank you, Mr. Walton.
Madam Chair, as your designated timekeeper, I'd just like to bring your attention to the time
Yes.
being 2 minutes to 2.
Yes, I think at this point, we're going to be able to stand up and sit down, but I do recommend that we do take that stretch break because we're going to probably be sitting for a while. So have a 2-minute stretch break, literally.